my manhood doesn't hinge off how many people I did or didn't kill in that type of tactical work. In fact, I find it abhorrent if someone tried to, I've killed 25 people. Oh, good for you. If it was required, good on you. If it's something that you hanging your hat on, that's a bit disturbing.
This is part 2 of a special 2-part series with former New South Wales Police and AFP member Jason Semple. This is Australian True Crime. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this podcast is created, the Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. And a warning, this episode of the podcast contains graphic descriptions of violence. Unfortunately, we hear with regularity about particularly AFP members, Australian Federal Police members, taking their own lives at work on the premises. And I initially took that as like some kind of statement.
Yeah, it's just access.
Yeah, I didn't know that until I asked, of course. I think because of TV and movies, we assume you go home with your gun on your holster. I didn't know that, no, they're all locked up there.
Yeah.
And again, it never occurred to me that an episode like that could just come on.
Yeah. Oh, and it's so bizarre because it's when I say it was like you were possessed, it literally was like almost an out-of-body experience. And there was no intention. Like I said, I had no intention of killing myself. It was like I was saying to myself, I could just be completely relaxed. I don't have to deal with this anymore. Because of the nature of what happened, everyone knew you. A lot of other cops were sort of anonymous in their day-to-day working, whereas anywhere I went, someone would say, "Oh, you're that guy," or or "You're Jay Semple," "Oh, how you going?" So it was like there was a lot of support that came with that. There's also a lot of pressure, and it just kept the spotlight, which I was trying to sort of get away from.
Also, because your brother was a successful copper too, wasn't he? So you were kind of, when you showed up, you were his brother.
Yeah.
And then very quickly you became, he's that guy who got stabbed and the other guy didn't make it. So I guess you must have been pretty intent on making your own mark that wasn't in your brother's shadow, that wasn't with this negative incident.
Yeah. There was a natural sort of progression to, go, like the tactical operations unit, I'd spoken to those guys while I was still at the academy because I'm in there training with one of my buddies and they come over. So they're the current special operations guys. Hey, where do you work? And they'll go, "Oh, I'm one of the probationary cops." And go, "Well, when you've done your time, come and see us."
Because you're a big unit, is that why? Do you think?
Yeah. I think they sort of test you out, and then I'd had a beer with them, and then they go, "Okay, he's a big guy, but he can hold a conversation. He's intelligent as well." Well, as intelligent enough, I suppose. So I got involved in their OSG, Operational Support Group. So they're right guys, so I did their training, but I always knew that the pinnacle was the Tactical Operations Unit.
Are they the blokes, at the moment in Victoria, we've got a manhunt going on around Porpunga.
The accused police killer and sovereign citizen Desi Freeman is still on the run this morning after he shot and killed 2 officers in rural Victoria and caused severe injuries, shooting a third.
2 of our fine Victoria police officers today lost their lives in the line of duty. We will do everything to bring this person into custody so that your community is safe.
Is this the kind of unit that goes to those events that you're talking about?
Yeah, so the Special Operations Group in Victoria, Tactical Response Group in WA, Tactical Operations Unit. But at the end of the day, they're all police special operations groups. And they're very well trained, very committed guys on the whole. You always got 1 or 2 dudes that slip through the cracks, but on the whole, incredible humans. So yeah, it'd be Special Operations Group out of Melbourne. I actually did a lot of time with them over the years. Probably about 6 months of service actually between Commonwealth Games and a few other activities down there. I was sworn in as a special constable with them during those periods. So basically, we all train together. We do a lot of interoperability. A lot of our structures come out of special forces. The way we get selected, our selection courses, is modelled off commandos and SASR. It doesn't go for the same duration, and it's obviously, but they're looking for the same people. the same sort of stressors that are placed upon guys are meant to elicit and really break guys down so that they can see your true personalities, whether you're going to be suitable.
To most of us, it sounds like a nightmare, but I get the impression that you would have felt like a pig in shit.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Again, actually, the psychologist said to me on the last day of our selection in the morning, she's like, "Oh, so Jason, you haven't really struggled on this program, have you?" And I said, "What?" I said, "I've lost like 9-10 kilos. I look like I've been, just dragged along the road behind a car, just bark off everywhere in the hurt locker." And I said, no, this has been horrifying. And she goes, "All right, I'll put it another way. At any point, have you found that you would not going to make it?" And I said, "Oh, no. And she goes, "Well, that's sort of my point."
And it's fulfilling both of your childhood ambitions. You're kind of a copper, but kind of got this military vibe going on as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's really got to tick that box. We're doing everything from, day-to-day sieges where, just some lunatics barricaded themselves in a house, maybe just armed with knives, or maybe they've just put petrol everywhere, to armed people that are at the siege still firing shots at us while we're trying to contain and not take life. Such an amazing amount of effort went into the protection of life. Like, we could have killed offenders left, right and centre. It was very well structured, very hard to criticise. Some of the other tactical units, Melbourne back in those days, sort of come under a bit of fire in their coroners' courts, because their coroners comparing what we were doing to them. And you're killing 16, they're killing none. So it's very eclectic lot of jobs. You can go from doing a 5 or 6 vehicle, heavily armed vehicle stop on armed, because a lot of armed robberies were occurring in those days as opposed to now. They've sort of diminished as different criminality around. Very aggressive vehicle techniques. You're basically forcing a carload of dudes that are armed off the side of the road and doing what we did to extract them. I go to work and you might even just be out quickly getting some administrative stuff done, and they say, "Hey, get yourself over to Sutherland Police Station right now, and we'll meet up with the armoured vehicle, because we've got 2 cops out the front of a house. They've just approached the front door. Shots have been fired through the door, so you need to go rescue them, and then we need to lock down that." And that was a live job. And when the cops went up to knock on the door to see whether he was there, fires shots through the door, somehow misses those 2 investigators. They wait out the front, take cover behind a car, and we drive the armoured vehicle in there, rescue them. And I remember the male cop, he goes, "Aren't you getting back in? Aren't you getting in?" And I go, no, I've got to stay here and make sure old mate doesn't come out. So it's like weird, you're rescuing there sort of going, what is it? Why is that dude's not coming with us? You spend 3 days locking down a siege. Yeah, there's such a wide and varied group of taskings.
Well, and you never knew what was going to happen. That, to someone like me, I hate that idea. It's not that I'm always need to know what's happening, but I get stressed out. Even my mum used to work in an emergency ward at a hospital on reception, and I used to think, I couldn't stand that, never knowing what's next, what's coming through the door next. But you thrive on that. You love not knowing what's next. Something will happen today. Who knows? Could be anything.
Yeah. I mean, you're not hoping that people are traumatized, but it's like a natural thing in the world. So it's like, if it's going to happen, I hope it's while I'm on shift.
Hope it happens on my shift.
Yeah.
So then how do you end up from there to the jungles of the Philippines and the UAE? Did you work with Australian Federal Police?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I became a federal agent. It's not like, New South Wales Police became, it was just replication of jobs, but to a degree it was for me. So it's like, the odd unique job would present, but there was a lot of sort of similarities between work.
Are you trying to tell us you got bored in special operations?
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of push the boundaries a bit more. So I went and worked as a private contractor in Iraq for about 10 months.
Wow. How was that? Is that like protecting engineers and things like that?
Yeah, it was US Department of Defense sort of led programs. So I was working in a CPAT, which was like police assistance and training. But we also did, protective movements. So you had to protect all your movements
What period of time was this? Was this during that, green zone period of time in Baghdad and all that?
Yeah. So it was like 06, 07.
So a lot of bombs, a lot of car bombs, a lot of suicide bombers.
Yeah. And we lost a couple of guys from our contract from IEDs. So there was a real risk there. But that was an incredible experience because it was just an opportunity to see how you perform psychologically and skill-wise in a war zone. And I wouldn't compare it to, kinetic first boots on the ground combat, but the environment requires you to be on point all the time. And I just found it invigorating place to be because it's like if you're in an environment where at any point you can lose your life, you tend to appreciate it way more than you do day to day. So even just the little things are comforting because you're so reliant on everyone around you. A lot of ego and, the toxic sort of behaviors you would see in normal life disappear. So, the chef is your best mate because he's on your side. You know what I mean? He's a common, someone you can trust. And, so it didn't matter what role anyone was doing. Oh, you're cool, you're not cool. Who cares about that? It was just like there's a commonality between people who you feel safe around and who you don't. And then, obviously it just got exposed incrementally to a lot more high threat environmentally, in interactions, some kinetic. We get mortared and, there's people firing RPGs at our building.
So in a lot of ways, it seems to me that it's much less straightforward than on the ground combat.
Yeah. It's it's a grey area. And I think a few guys struggled too with if they'd had a lethal interaction with, there'd been an attack or whatever, and then they just punched through a certain area where that occurred, but they know that people had died trying to attack them. The normal protocol, whether it's military or cops, is there is a very significant amount of work that goes into making sure that there was lawful and it was the correct, all the mechanisms you would expect back here. But there was none of that to a degree. So actually, it's funny where you'd expect some guys to sort of revel in the fact that there was no real answer. You didn't have to answer for it, but that wasn't the case. It didn't sit well with a lot of guys.
I can imagine. I mean, it's not part of our humanity, is it, to think that I should be able to just, I can't even find words to explain it, let alone imagine it.
I trained most of my life to take life, to save life. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's like honing skills. And it's literally every time you're pulling a trigger, every time you're doing it, it's like this is to hone a skill to take a life, but it's in the context of saving lives. And, it's a shared ethos, especially amongst police special operations and police, and it would be the military as well. We don't want to kill anyone. I want to go my whole career because if we kill someone, it probably means that we didn't plan our job properly and there's a failure. But at the end of the day, we did everything known to man. And it's not my manhood doesn't hinge off how many people I did or didn't kill in that type of tactical work. In fact, I find it abhorrent if someone tried to, I've killed 25 people. Oh, good for you. If it was required, good on you. If it's something that you are hanging your hat on, that's a bit disturbing.
If you'd like to talk to someone about abuse that's taken place in your life, no matter how long ago it happened, your GP is always a good place to start. If that's not going to work for you, you can contact 1-800-RESPECT on 1-800-737-732 or via their website 1800respect.org.au. Or you can call Lifeline's 24-hour phone counselling service on 13 11 14.
I remember having an argument with a psych towards the end of my career. Her argument was around, you've been deploying all over the place and you're not getting, so 1 minute you're in a jungle for doing operations for like 3 months. Then you get shot back to Melbourne to do a counter-terrorism job. And then it's, hey, say hello to your family as you go back overseas for 2 months. And it's like, how do you cope with that? 1 minute you're doing this, next you're doing this, next minute there's no decompression time. And she gave me this example. Imagine you went across the road from your house and you're at the service station, and say someone tries to do an armed robbery and you're there, and you haven't got your weapon. What's that going to do to you psychologically? And I go, every single time I go there, I think of this scenario.
I'm going to pick up a tin of baked beans and I'm going to smack him over the head with it. And yeah.
You nailed it. And she goes, oh my God, that is so unhealthy. And I go, well, with all due respect, you haven't got the experience or the expertise to say that. She goes, pardon me, I'm a psychologist. I said, okay. I said, if I walk in there and I'm thinking, okay, if someone comes in around here, this is what I'm going to do. I'm not sitting here salivating and hoping it happens. What I'm doing is giving my brain, going back to when I got stabbed. So when the stress kicks in because someone walks in with a rifle and says, I'll give you money, your brain just goes straight back to that last loop, and you can do that.
So you can relax after you've set your plan?
Yeah, your plan's in, and it's like training on the go. Anyway, so I said, and I understand all this hypersensitivities that can occur. I said, you expect me to go into these environments and potentially shoot someone dead, and you expect me not to do this type of pre-planning in my brain as to what I would do, armed or not unarmed. I said, if anyone in my unit doesn't answer that question the way I did, they need to go. They shouldn't be there. Yeah. And in the end, she goes, okay, I concede. And I suppose the basis there was, you could have 40 years of psychology training. Unless you've worked and seen the baseline psychologies of the guys in our unit, how can you tell us what's healthy and not healthy?
Well, and also our country sends you guys there. We train you, we send you there, we put you in that environment. So It's a bit disingenuous, isn't it, to then criticise the way that you're coping with it, the way that it's changed your brain chemistry and your neural pathways and all that. You didn't go there by your own accord. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was not a tourist trip.
Do you worry about anything you've been involved in, how it could be represented, or even if culture changes? Like I feel like our culture and society have changed so much in the last couple of decades. Do you ever worry that, one day they might turn around and say they hate blokes like me who've gone overseas and worked in these jobs?
Oh, I think we're pretty much living through that era now. It's like there's been so much hatred, and there's been a deconstruction of masculinity, you know what I mean?
Yep, I do.
And the importance of it. And it's like, without going into another part of my life, like I'm also a domestic violence victim, right? Yeah, as a 6'5", 115 kilo guy with all my training, but because of my mentality, I'm not, you're not going to be striking women or, so we're not impervious to, we can still be victims, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like I've always been, so when all the units were in, one of the things we'd like to monitor was elitism and ego, and they're intrinsically pretty much the same thing. Because you'd have guys, like I'd go talk to the cleaner, the cleaner comes through our unit headquarters, whatever. Hey man, how you going? And they go, oh, you're talking to me. No one talks to me here. Yeah. Why wouldn't I talk to you, bro? I talk to everyone, our logistics guys, I literally, I didn't care what you did. It was, if you were a good human, I want to spend time with you, find out who you were. And then I think that sort of translated over to them too. You go, Semple's off doing this stuff. But so many guys were so egotistical. It was like, it's actually, when you really break it down, it's like it's a real negative on them. It's like it's a bravado to protect a construct that they've made where maybe they're not as tough as they want you to think they are.
I always say toxic masculinity is toxic for men. It's about the way it prevents men from being able to be truly confident in themselves. And all of those things that I can imagine in this very hyper-masculine military environment. A lot of blokes would feel the need to live up to images, ideas.
It's living up to and then outdoing everything.
Yeah.
Whether it's a gym, how much food you can eat in a sitting, like every single thing was a competition. And it gets a bit, it burns up a lot of energy, as you can imagine.
And it could push people into negative spaces,
Yeah.
Do you ever experience jealousy, do you think, as in directed at you? Because I'll tell you why that's popped into my mind. I know in Victorian police circles, some individuals have been held out for very high praise and have become a bit famous, let's say.
Yep.
And a lot of other people don't take it very well. People they've known for a very long time and worked happily with, and suddenly there can be negativity around these guys. So given that you are quite legendary, other people talk about you in their own interviews and you do a bit of media. Have you ever experienced it where you've thought,
Not in that context, to be honest, but maybe because I'm pretty authentic. So I share my anxieties as much as I share my willingness to, there's some things I will not compromise on, and I've got no dramas risking my life to save anyone, even someone's kid that if you watch the Channel 7 documentary about when I got stabbed, what triggered a lot of people are going, is this guy for real? He just said on this documentary that the guy who stabbed him, if his child needed me to give my life to save them, I would. And they're going, what, I would hope that's what most people are like. We've got that compassion side. So maybe because I'm a bit, that people can see that and they go, well, he's not really, beating his chest saying he's the world's best, because I definitely am not. Maybe that's sort of helped. I'm sure there's people out there that don't like people like me, but realistically, I have no interest in them, because they have to be low energy humans to dislike someone who's, my interest is in humanity and protecting humanity. I'm pretty sure that's what I was put on this earth for. It was to bully the bully.
And that's very forward in the way you present. Like, that is obvious within seconds of meeting you, of chatting with you too. So I think maybe that sets you apart in a great way. What about at home? There's been a lot of talk over the years about American servicemen who have been deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and about then them just being sent home, either on leave or finishing a tour or whatever, and they are literally in their lounge room within 24 hours of leaving Iraq or leaving Afghanistan, because there was a lot of violence committed when these men came home. How did you cope with coming home, and did you find real life, normal Australian life boring?
Yeah, it's a struggle. I mean, if I go back to when I got stabbed in New South Wales Police, and as abhorrent as that was, and I wish it didn't happen for a number of reasons, namely so that Pete could live his life with his family, but the interactions I had with Murray Wright, the psychiatrist at the time, he gave me some tools that I acknowledged using maybe 10 years later, that I'd been using those tools. So I had some of these psychological tools that allowed me that I could access, which a lot of people don't get. They only get those tools post-incident, which is stupid. Why wouldn't you, day one at the police academy, start that process of, if this was to happen, you need to be doing this. These are things these are, get lived experience, people like my brother who can articulate it in a way that's healthy, to give them the insights. And also, like, Mick Drew's book, it can be life-saving. There's little things that just you can grab hold of, because unfortunately some of these things are going to happen to other people.
That's the realism of it. Yeah, absolutely. Was it you and Gary Jubelin were you chatting and one of you said they should have above the academy door as you're leaving, warning, your police career will probably not end the way you think it's going to.
Yeah, Gary Jubelin, yeah.
Gary.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's only with the hindsight of men in your positions that, you could have so much to offer younger people about being a bit ready for the insane roller coaster ride that is policing.
Yeah. And even, 5 years into the job, so by that point I'm in the tactical operations, I actually threw it out there quite a few times to people, police union, and they had no interest in it. No one had any interest in it back then. I don't think they're still doing it now. So it's a travesty of justice there. So answering your question it was very hard. to compartmentalize certain activities. And then next thing you know, you're at home. And I remember I went to a job, back in the tactical operations unit, and it was a siege, all this stuff's going on. The offender walked into a room and it was all this people talking on the radio. I'm sitting across the road as a sniper in my sniper position, and I'm looking through and I'm getting my offsider to try and get some information to everyone. Hey, the offender is actually walking into this room because they've just ripped out the window section and the armoured vehicle was bogged, and there's all these things there. And so people are talking, and he's walked into the room and he sort of stands looking to his right and he's got a shotgun in his hand. So it basically, if he turned like he would naturally as a right hand, because of the way he's holding the weapon, I'd made a decision to kill him. So my safety's off. I've squeezed up half my trigger pull on my sniper rifle, and we can't pass any of this information on because there's too many people talking on the operational radios. So I'd made a decision to kill this guy. So it's like, you might as well have done it because you just decided to. I'm just waiting for him to do the exact precursor that I required to justify it. And I'm not going to do it unless it has to be justified. And then realistically, the only thing that saved his life is that he weirdly just walked backwards out of the room. It's like he had a spider sense. Well, this is not a good room to be in with a shotgun. I'm going to die. And then backed out. And then I put my weapon on safe, had a massive adrenaline dump, because who goes to work and then I go, I'm going to kill this guy right now. And my offside is waiting for the bang. It's that imminent. And then it's like, it doesn't happen. And then we resolved the arrest. It was up in Newcastle at Gateshead. As I'm coming home, because I've been gone from home for about maybe 28 hours by the time we resolved it. And I'd got a message from my ex-wife now, or wife at the time, make sure can you get some milk? Because the kids are only real little. And when I got home.
Had you forgotten the milk?
I'd forgotten the milk. And then I walk in and I go, are you serious? Like, I only just said to you to get the milk. And so I just turned around, walked straight out of my house, got in my car and drove 1.5 hours to Sydney and went and slept in my office because I was like,
how can you? Yeah, and I've heard this from soldiers, from people from different walks of life. That is such a challenge to not only not resent your family for living a normal life, but not find it so incredibly boring and facile and want to go. That's why blokes go back to deployment.
There's an incredible video meme that came out a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and it shows it's like all the family interactions at home. So everyone's cooking, prepping for a family barbecue, and your neighbours are there and the family, and it shows this guy standing at the sink, peeling potatoes, and then he's in his civilian, but then he's actually standing there in his uniform and he's just looking out the window. He's back in that environment, even though he's physically in with his family. It literally, the amount of people, service people that have watched that and just broke down, me included. It's just like, that is exactly what it's like. You can be in the room, but doesn't mean you're present. So there was you had to sort of wrap your head around that. And I suppose as long as you were cognizant of it, you could make sure that it didn't become an issue.
Well, even in the last couple of weeks, I've spoken to 2 retired detectives, homicide detectives in Victoria, and both of them have brought up out of the blue the Paul Punga situation and the investigation. It's like one of these guys has been retired for about 25 years. It's like they never cannot be there. There's a part of them, their heart and their soul, that is in that investigation, caring about the members who are involved in that investigation, and they're still there.
Yeah. And those homicide detectives, whether it's homicide detectives, the people that investigate pedophiles, I honestly don't know how they did it or how they do because they get exposed to the trauma. A lot of time they get exposed to initial risk, so there's a risk factor, in terms of arresting. And then there's every single detail. They're across every single minute detail, photographic evidence. It's just an overwhelming amount of trauma that is forced upon them.
And then have to try and create a rapport with the bloke while they're interviewing him.
Yeah.
You know, it is
From an
unbelievable.
animal. You're sitting across from an absolute animal. It's not murdered kids or...
You got to try and make him feel like you're not judging him so he'll talk. It's a skill set.
Some heroes in there.
Yeah, and as you said, you know, everyone's got a skill set. So what is your work now? When you finish the deck, what do you go back to? What is work for you?
You know, so post, you know, obviously my time I was obviously New South Wales Police, then a bit of contracting, and then I did a big chunk with the feds, you know, in Timor, Pacific Islands, Philippines, Afghanistan, you name it.
Jesus, all the hot spots.
You know, and then that led on to UAE military. I was one of the first police special operations guys in there with unique skill sets that they were looking for. Eventually, I came back to Australia in 2018 from that role, and I needed to be gainfully employed. So a company that I'd done a fair bit of work with when I was overseas, Australian Defence Apparel, they basically, ADA are the incumbent, they manufacture all of the equipment and body armour, uniforms that our ADF been wearing for 112 years, they've been manufacturing. They now do law enforcement in a really large way. You know, they've got massive contracts with, you know, whether it's AFP and New South Wales. So for them, when I came back, they go, you literally know everyone in the military and you know everyone in the police. So it's perfect. If you're interested, we'd love to have you come and work for us.
Oh, how fantastic to see your skill set and your experience appreciated, valued, and then someone to say to you, you know, do you think, could we use that in our field?
Yeah, I've been working for them for 7 years, and I love their CEO, Chris Dixon, and it's a big business, but it's very much like a family.
But how does it feel to be safe at work every day? Was that weird?
Yeah. Oh, but to be honest with you, I'm still the sheriff of my environment. So whatever I can see, like I'd still interact with people. If there's bad behaviour going on, I won't walk past it. So, you know, the old saying, what you're willing to walk past is what you're willing to accept.
But I don't like that. You want to ask my kids what it's like to be with me at the chicken shop if some teenagers start playing up. Like,
yeah, good. That's how it should be.
It should be, and that's how adults were when you and I were kids. They didn't care whose kid you were. If you were playing up, they'd let you know. But again, yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I'm very happy to hear that you've been able to pull back on that adrenaline.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I won't lie, because my value system is like I said earlier. It's like I think I was put on this planet to bully the bully. So if you're going to be a bully, guess what? There's going to be consequence, and there's people like myself that just get up in the morning and we cannot wait to ruin your day. You know, so I'm equally, if there was no bad people, I'm happy being happy Jace for the rest of my days, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's always there. I'm always, you know, out and about. I don't feel like it's been put to bed completely, but hopefully there's nothing going on in my periphery that I need to get involved with moving forward. But if there is, I will. Simple as that, you know, especially with them. There's so little amount of law enforcement out in the street these days. I think it's really incumbent on us in the community to do our bit as well. Can't just hand it over to the police. There has to be, if the community is 100% against poor behaviour on the collective, that poor behaviour would disappear overnight. But that's not the way it is. Everyone's like, someone else's job. I'll walk away from this.
Are you Buddhist, or have you ever studied Buddhism? Because I am, and so many times today I've thought, oh, well, that's a very Buddhist perspective or a very Buddhist strategy.
I'm not Buddhist, but I love the ethos and the teachings. It's incredible.
Yeah, I felt as though if you hadn't studied or hadn't been aware of Buddhism, then it would be really weird because you're very in tune with the philosophy. Yeah,
no, I've done a fair bit of reading around faith, and you know, my faith has sort of had some ebbs and lows, you know, over the years, but like I've always held a strong level of faith, you know. It doesn't mean that I'm sitting there reading a Bible every day.
No.
But I'm 100% sure there's something.
I like Buddhism because it's about self-discipline, you know. So a lot of what you've talked about keeping yourself calm in a situation and the benefits of that, and lots of stuff around the self-discipline that you've talked about without using that expression, very Buddhist. Meditating, I thought, do you meditate? I know Jubes is a big meditator. And the way you talked about pulling yourself together when you're lying on the ground bleeding out was very meditative to me.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle with meditating because of my natural proclivity towards ADHD. So it's like, even those short breathing exercises that, you can do, I like, nah, like but I suppose I meditate in other ways. So I've got a very curious mind. So it's learning. If it doesn't include learning, I've sort of got no interest in it. It's like, I think one of the best things you can have for a healthy brain is curiosity. Like curiosity is like, because if you're curious, you're sort of looking for both sides of an argument. If you're curious, you're looking, oh, wow, why am I here?
Well, thank you, because you have given, your curiosity has provided lots of really interesting moments in this conversation. It seems this is classic of you, Semps. You live it, you breathe it, you exemplify it, and you've done that with us. Thank you so much. What a joy it's been to meet you. Thank you to our guest this week, Jason Semple. If you need support after listening to this podcast, you can call Lifeline on 13 11 14 or contact 1800-RESPECT on 1800 737 732 or 1800respect.org.au. Indigenous Australians can contact 13 Yarn on 13 92 76 or 13yarn.org.au.
The producers of this podcast recognise the traditional owners of the land on which it's recorded. They pay respect to the Aboriginal elders past, present and those emerging.